Magic is a skill,
Yeah.
right? It's a skill like painting. It's a skill like dancing. It's a skill like drawing. You practice it. You try to get better at it. And you learn the subtleties, the ins and outs of it is an art form that is underappreciated because we hide the art.
Hey there, it's Jules. Welcome to Jules Unscripted, Living Life Without a Script podcast, where we chat about the beauty of aging, learning what authentic means to you, and how to build your dream life one step at a time. Get ready to hear stories from incredible people who learned what it takes to build nothing out of something. Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Jules Unscripted. I'm Jules, and today I have Bizzaro here with me. Bizzaro is an illusionist, and he is also an escape room artist. So I am so happy for you to come on the podcast to talk about magic, escape rooms. If you listen to the episode we did about the escape room episode, Biz has been mentioned. So here he is. He's here with us live, and he's going to explain a little bit more about escape rooms and also more about the magic that he does. So again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah. I mean, you're local. It's not like it's like I had to drive to LA or anything weird like that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's nothing's far in this town. So it's easy to get it from one side to the other, even at 5 o'clock.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I work downtown and I live up by the Summerlin-ish area, so it does take a little bit, but it's not that bad. You could get to the city pretty easily.
No, I have friends who've moved here from LA, and they're like, "Oh, it's so far away." I'm like, first off, that's a lie, and don't be like that.
Yeah.
I'm always reminding myself, I'm like, no, just go. Don't be those people, right? It's like, oh, other side of 15? Nah, we're not doing that.
Right. I mean, 15 to 30 minutes is not bad at all in hindsight.
No.
In hindsight.
Oh yeah. Go to Dallas, go to LA, go to Chicago, go any other city, and you'll be like, oh, this is nothing.
The only thing I wish Vegas had more of was more public transportation. That was easier for people to get around to if they don't have a car or things like that,
Yeah, I don't even know how they'd implement that at this point. The city is so weirdly made that you'd have to go underground, and that's just not going to happen.
Right, they're trying, but I don't think it's going to work out.
No. I mean, if anything, they do Hyperloop stuff around the city, but I'm like, where, how? Everything's so wacky, spread out, and who knows? No, this is definitely not a public transportation city. Not like Chicago or New York or anything like that.
No, but you're from LA?
No,
where are you from?
Dallas, Texas. Okay. Outside of Dallas, then into Dallas, and then here. But I've been here 17 years now.
Okay, so you're pretty much a local.
I would hope so at this point. Magic is a skill, right? It's a skill like painting. It's a skill like dancing. It's a skill like drawing. You practice it. You try to get better at it. And you learn the subtleties, the ins and outs of it is an art form that is underappreciated because we hide the art.
I'm excited for you to be on the podcast because when Ian was telling me about it, he was like, you got to get Biz on. You got to get Biz on. He kept telling me that. And Mike kept telling me, you got to get Biz on. And so hell yeah, I'll see what Biz is about. And he gave me your website and everything. I looked into it. I was like, dang, this guy's a real deal magician. And dude, let me tell you, So I grew up loving magic. I've been a big magic person growing up. I was so obsessed with it that I asked for a magic kit for Christmas one year. Lance Burton was my favorite magician.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I don't know if you know the magic kits that you used to make. I used to have one of those, and I would practice the sleight of hand and all that kind of stuff. But I was young. I was probably, gosh.
I mean, we all most people who stick with it start young. Yeah. But also a lot of them don't. Magic is not unusual for young kids of any age or gender or anything like that to get into it. Usually around 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. And then half of them, I would say, fall off because they discover other things they like more, like dance or karate or whatever, right? Or drugs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then there's a handful of us who just stick it out longer than any other sane person would and make a career out of it. And it becomes just this thing you do. And some people, you got a bunch of different levels of, professional. You got guys who work the local scenes who do children's parties and then private parties and house parties, stuff like that. And then you have the hobbyists, the people who do it for fun but have regular jobs, and the enthusiasts. And then you have the people like me who do it for a living, travel the world and go and teach it to other people and do stuff like that. But Vegas is the one place where a lot of us who take it very seriously come here, because everybody here takes performing seriously. Like, Vegas is a very professional city for entertainers. So almost everybody here who does it for a living is a professional.
Right.
But having said that, it's not unusual for somebody to get into it young and then just be like, well, this isn't for me. Or they discover other things, or they come back around to it. There's a gal here in Vegas whose name is Holly England, right? And she used to be in our show Late Night Magic at the Orleans. And she started life, she got into magic young, then she discovered dance, liked dance more, became a dancer, but then also would be an assistant in magic acts, and then she came back. When you're a dancer from a very age, your body gets very destroyed early. Like, your knees and your ankles are just gone by like your mid-30s, apparently. This is what I've been told. I don't know. Right. That's 100% true for everybody. So she came back into the magic world and started doing that again. So there's a gentleman by the name, he's passed away, but his name was Johnny Thompson, and he was always into magic and stuff like that, but he didn't really start doing it professionally until he was almost in his 40s and stuff like that. So you can always pick up something new. You switch horses midstream, jump multiple horses, just whatever, have a team of them, who knows? But you could still pick it back up. It's not too late.
So in that same kind of topic, when did you learn about magic, and what really sparked that curiosity in you? Was it when you were young, like how I was? Or you just continued
around 5 or 6?
Really? That's
5 or 6. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and like there was talking about, so most of us when they're young, there is some sort of magic kit or magic shop that is and so the newer generation, it tends to be more YouTube videos and stuff. That's more of a common thing now. But back in my day, we didn't have that kind of stuff. So I would see magicians on TV and stuff like that. But my parents had gotten me like this. It was a Fisher-Price magic set. It was produced for like 2 years, I guess. And if you look up Fisher-Price magic set 80s, you'll see pictures of it. And it had like these colored doors and all this stuff. And it was also, because it was Fisher-Price, it was made of like indestructible plastic, right? Because it was made for kids. But what was interesting about this particular set is it was different than a lot of the others, where it kind of seemed to encourage like stand-up stage, almost like a stage performing kind of thing, instead of the close-up stuff. And so I think that mixed with the magic shows that were on TV at the time, David Copperfield, World's Greatest Magic, stuff like that, kind of set the tone for me, just going, oh, magic's a stage art. It's a stand-up thing. You get on stage, you do an act, you do the thing. And that's kind of, I think, what influenced my decision to be a stage performer. So yeah.
Okay. So mostly magic was your gateway into stage performance, and then you like started doing the silent gigs and the comedy gigs and all that.
Yeah, I mean, when you first start out, especially when you're a kid, you basically, like, oh, do children's parties. That's what they'll tell you, because you can get paid $50 to do a children's party. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I tried that and realized I didn't like that. I've done a little bit of everything. I've done close-up magic in restaurants, and for private gigs, I've done street performing, I've done all the stuff. And it's one of those things where my brain was like, I want to do stage performing where the people are intentionally coming to see me, right? Yeah. Like I don't like bothering people, so I don't want to be like, hey, look at me. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. No, I understand that. You want people to come to you. You don't want to chase.
Right. Yeah. And also, it's like my friend used to call, like, when you do magic, close-up magic at a restaurant, right? He used to call it dinner hostage theater, right? And you walk up to these people and all of a sudden they're having a conversation. They're like, who the hell is this guy? What do you want?
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to bug you people, but I have a job to do. So, and there's nothing wrong with it. Some people are very good at it and make a great living, but that's just not my thing.
Right. No, I understand that. And you said you have a show at the Orleans?
We did.
You did?
So for 2.5, 3 years, we had a show here in Vegas called Late Night Magic, right? It was a very, very adult magic show. I used to tell people it's dick jokes and magic tricks. Okay. If you don't like that, don't come, because we don't want to hear you complain afterwards. And so we started at a place called Alexis Park, and it was 5 of us, right? So it was a team. It was this variety of magicians, and one of the things we would say is like, listen, if you don't like one of us, just wait. There'll be something else you might like coming up. So it was myself, a gentleman named John Shaw, who works over at the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum, a magician named Lefty, who was also working in Murray the Magician Show at Tropicana at the time, a gal named Anna Rose who did like mentalism and hypnosis.
Oh, cool.
And then we had a magician named Mondre who does like a dove act and stuff like that. And so we were there for like a year and a half. Then we moved to the Orleans for a year and a half, and we changed some of the people up. We ended up bringing in the Shocker, who's a like professional wrestling magician character, and a couple of different other women magicians, Holly England, and then she went off to do some other stuff. And then we brought in a girl named Tasha, who's part of the Conjurers, who's a mentalism duo.
Oh, cool.
At the same time. So, but then the Orleans, in their infinite wisdom, decided to close down the theater to make a sports book.
Why?
Because corporate people don't appreciate entertainment in this town, and there's no loyalty. Anyway, so they kicked all the shows out of there. It was like all 4 or 5 shows are in there. They're just like, get out. And we're all like, oh, okay.
Like, Vegas is supposed to be entertainment, not always sports.
Tell that to the bean counters, man. They don't understand. So there is talk of we're looking for another home, and there's been rumblings of things I've heard. Now, I'm not part of the day-to-day business transactions of stuff, so I don't know what's going on, but I've heard possibly our show may reopen in October, so we'll see. And if it does, come see the show.
Yes, I want to come see it.
You will see many strange things.
Strange things are very fun for me.
Yeah. I have two performance styles. I have an all silent act where I perform with music and do like what's called manipulation and stuff like that. Also very kind of comedy vaudeville-esque. And then I have a stand-up talking act that's a little more like prop comedy, a little stand-up comedy style. So I have, depending on what's needed, like in September, I'm going out to Myrtle Beach. So I'll be doing my talking act and my silent act there, both depending on, because it's a magic convention. We have a big magic convention that happens here every year called Magic Live. So in August at the Orleans, if you come out around the evening, you can come to the bar and just hang out and watch magicians doing magic for like hours.
You have to tell me when that happens because I would love to go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that sounds.
And they will love you because they will just show you magic all day, all night.
My gosh.
And you can get drunk and just watch magicians and try new stuff, and it's very fun.
Oh. So speaking of magic tricks, like which one would you say is your favorite trick that you do in your shows?
So when I was younger, a teenager, I was very influenced by performers like the Amazing Jonathan, if you're familiar with him.
He sounds kind of familiar.
All right, so Amazing Jonathan he billed himself as the Freddy Krueger of comedy, right?
Okay.
So he was he was what you would call a shock performer, right? So he would do stuff that was like, he would take a knife and it looks like it cuts into his arm, but it really doesn't, stuff like that. Sometimes very bloody. Sometimes early Penn and Teller would also fall in this category where they would just do shocking things, but will also be very funny, right? So I watched him growing up, and he did this thing where he was putting razor blades in his mouth and then string, and then he would bleed all over the place and then pull the razor blades tied to the thread out of his mouth. And I remember being like very young and going, I want to do that. That looks cool. And then my hippie parents because they're very open-minded about stuff. And so that's probably one of those ones that when people are saying, what's your favorite trick? And I'm like, oh, it's the one where I chew razor blades, right? Yeah. And that's actually the effect that we opened Late Night Magic with for all 3 years, where I come out very cold open and I would perform the razor blade effect.
Does that like hurt, or is there a way that you like kind of make it so you're not getting like extremely hurt?
Magic.
I know, but I want to know. Because whenever I see that, I'm like, does it like not, like, do you put something in your mouth before you
everything
have
is practice.
Crazy.
Everything there's, what's funny is there's a handful of people who want to make everybody believe like, no, it's like, I'm a magician. I'm this magical being and I have these magical powers. I'm like, listen, magic is a skill, right? It's a skill like painting. It's a skill like dancing. It's a skill like drawing. You practice it. You try to get better at it. And you learn the subtleties, the ins and outs of. It is an art form that is underappreciated because we hide the art, right? Very like if you don't see it, we're doing a good job, right? And so that's why I always joke and say magic sits on the entertainment ladder where it's like, oh, we're right below some jugglers, but above some mimes, right? So it's like
you're like in the middle,
right? Because with juggling, you can see the skill because you're like, oh, I can't catch one ball, let alone 3.
Yeah.
And so
like put swords down my mouth.
Yeah. Right. Like, hey, you can see that skill, right?
Yeah.
But with magic, you don't see it at all, and so it becomes one of those things where the skill you do see is like the movement, the makeup, the choreography, and all that stuff, and the comedy and the scripting. So it's but the actual art of magic with the magic, the sneaky stuff. Hopefully, you never see it.
So what would happen if you mess up with your trick?
Oh, it's absolutely happened.
It's happened?
So
How would
it
you
depends how catastrophic it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how would you, like, fix that in front of a live audience?
Would you just experience? So
Yeah.
it very much depends on how bad it is. So I've had things happen that the audience has no idea about. And that's one of those things we try to teach like younger performers when we talk to them about this stuff early on. We're like, listen, if you screw up, keep going. The audience doesn't know what you're doing, and if you can recover, they just think it's part of the act. I have fallen off stage before and people thought it was part of the act. Now,
yeah.
now because my performance style is very all over the place, it makes sense, right? It wouldn't work for
Right.
Lance Burton. Lance Burton fell off the stage, you'd probably notice. But because of the way I am, when wacky things happen, you just play it off and go, oh, I don't know what that was. But I have had things happen where I'm just you have to acknowledge it. You just kind of like I used to have this routine when I was younger where I would multiply and produce like eyeballs. They would just get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And one of them was hidden in the table I had, and there's a piece of black cloth over it so you couldn't see it, and the black cloth just came unvelcroed. And so it looked down right before I go to steal this thing, and I look down and I see it, and I know the audience has seen it the whole time, and I'm just like, well, they absolutely know where this is coming from. But I just kept going, like I pretended it didn't happen, and I just pulled the thing out, and I just produced it, and I sit on the stage, and I lean on it, and I look at him and go, it has been a very long night.
You could kind of turn that into like a comedy sketch, probably, huh?
Yeah.
Thinking off your toes.
Yeah, and it's a lot of improv is a very important skill in performing, especially if you're a talking act. But there's a performer who's blown up on the social media named Lucy Darling, who is also a magician, but nobody really knows that because she doesn't show the magic.
Is she the one with the red hair?
Yeah.
I've seen her.
Yes,
My friend
yes.
sent me some stuff of her, and I'm like, I love her.
Yeah,
She's cool.
so she's a magician, but she doesn't put her magic stuff online. She puts her improv stuff online, all her crowd work and stuff. But that's the kind of stuff where having that skill of being able to interact with the audience and talk to them is more important almost than fooling them, right? Because everybody's brains work differently. So some people, you can't fool everybody, but if you can get most of them, it's nice.
It's
right?
more connection.
Yeah.
Forming a story with them.
Well, and I tell all sorts of performers, magic, acting, singing, whatever. It's like if they like you as a performer, they'll watch you do anything. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
So you just have to be likable. Now, you don't have to be likable nice way. You can be likable as an asshole, like Amazing Jonathan. Like Jonathan he would be like throwing knives at people's feet, sticking them in the ground and stuff.
Jesus.
Like, he knew what he was doing mostly. But he was still likable, even though he was crazy. His character was very crazy on stage. He was still very likable, and so you just have to be likable, however that happens, right? And that's what makes almost anybody, I think, successful. Is just they just want to watch, they just want to hang out with you, right?
Yeah.
So
no, that's cool. That makes sense. I like what you're saying about how if something messes up, you keep going. You just gotta play around.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And
Well, and sometimes a screw up will lead to a better outcome.
Yeah.
Right? I've had things mess up and go, oh, how do I get that to happen every time? Right? I had a thing, we were doing a show in a bar here, and I was like trying to open this paper bag, and in the normal routine, I would let go of the bag and be like, and look around and then realize it fell. I was like, oh, whatever. But one day we're in this bar and I throw the thing and I look and the bag is gone. And I'm like, and I look up because the ceiling was kind of low. It was like a popcorn ceiling. And it had wedged itself between the bag had somehow wedged itself between the ceiling and the curtain. The bag was just kind of stuck there. And I went, that's fun. And I was,
get that down.
well, I was close enough to be able to jump and grab it. But my brain was sitting there going, man, if I was here every night or every week, I'd try to figure out how to make that happen every time, right? Like I'd put a magnet in the thing, put a sheet of metal up there so I could go plunk and have this bag just stick to the ceiling and be like,
where'd it go?
That'd be so funny. And so that kind of stuff sits in my brain, but no, screw ups can lead, what is the phrase? You learn a lot from your failures. Right. So, I failed a lot on and off stage. And so having having those moments. I used to work with a character in my show. We used to have a routine where I would get chased around while in a straitjacket. He'd be trying to hit me with a metal bat, right? And at one point, he goes to hit me, and like a button on his pants popped, and these pants were very loose fitting, and they just dropped, right? Thankfully, he was wearing boxers.
Very comedic.
It was so funny. Audience thought it was great, and afterwards, my mother comes up to us and was like, "When did you guys put that in the show?" I said, "Tonight." And my friend was like, "We're not doing that every time." I'm like, "Yes, we are." It was so good.
Were you able to do that every time?
I mean, yeah, it was like when you can play. It's actually sometimes it's actually harder to do it on purpose than on accident. But
I was gonna ask you too, like, how did you come up with a trick that like ends up in your shows? Like, is there a process to start a new trick, or is it something like that where it's like it just kind of happens and you're like, oh yeah, let's add this on?
So inspiration comes from everywhere. Sometimes I'll be watching another performer who's bad and just be like, and I'm like, oh, I don't, or I say something, I go, that's not great, but I know how to fix it. I know how to make it better.
Right.
Or my brain gets ahead of them and I go, oh, they're going to do this. Oh, they didn't do that. Oh, I guess I'm going to do that now because that's a way better version. So sometimes you get inspiration from that. Sometimes I'll be walking around like a craft store or a hardware store, and I'll see something and go, oh, you know what that looks like? Hey, that would, it leads to a weird, like, my brain kind of wanders off. And then sometimes there's magic effects that pre-exist, that because we have magic shops and we have people who teach lectures and DVDs, and I'm one of those people. I have a bunch of things that I've created for sale and stuff like that. And sometimes you see that and go, hey, this would work for me. How do I make that? How do I write a routine around that? Or it's an abstract concept. I had this idea where I'm like, how do I hold something in a net that you can't hold in a net, like salt or sand, right? Like, how do you do that? And it just depends. Like having a weird sense of humor helps, for me. Like I always tell people, I'm like, I'm making the magic that I want to see if I was sitting in the audience, right? And I just happen to have a weird sense of humor. So like I have a routine where I bring a bag of Doritos to life and it attacks me and bites my face off, So because I like nacho cheese Doritos, I think it's funny. And there's a longer story there for that. It was a conversation to me and a friend of mine about a dream she had. And I went, oh, that'd be really funny. And then I had this thought. I was like, what if we did this? And so, like I have one of the routines that I do a lot now involves duct tape.
Okay.
And so it was one of those things where I had a routine with duct tape in my talking act where I put tape over my face. Before tape face was a thing, I was doing this thing.
Right.
And I'm not saying he stole anything. I'm just saying it was just parallel thinking. And then one day I'm like, I want to do a routine with duct tape in my silent act. And then, so I'm writing out all these ideas with like going, okay, what would you do with duct tape? And I wrote all these ideas and I'm like, okay, now how do you put those into a flow that makes sense? And one of the things that I like to do with my silent stuff is, make a vignette, write a story. Because magic works very well as a presentation when it solves a problem. So you end up with this concept of, it's like this is actually something the guys from South Park talked about in a video. They came and talked to like a script writing class or screenwriting class.
Oh, the actual creators of South Park.
Yeah, they stopped in. And this video is online, not the full video. I'd love to see the full video. But one of the things they talked about is how you can tell a movie's boring when it's written like this. This happens, then this happens, and this happens, and this happens. They said their formula, and quite frankly, a lot of not just theirs, but I think a lot of like The Simpsons and Family Guy, and a lot of the adult cartoons work this way as well. It's the concept of this happens, but then this happens, therefore this happens, right? So it's like you're trying to do this, but now this happens, so you got to fix this, and that leads to this. But then this happens, and now you got to do this. So that's kind of how the magic routines are written inadvertently. I didn't realize that until I heard that and go, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm trying to fix this, but then this happens. So now I have to deal with that. Okay, I've dealt with that, but now this has happened. I have to deal with this.
It's like chaos that just keeps snowballing.
Right.
Try to fix the snowball effect.
And there are different types of presentations in magic depending on what your personal preference is. There's a gentleman out of Germany, his name is Topaz, who has this thing where he says, and I'm going to mess this up, it's you're the killer, the victim, or the witness.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And so the killer is the one who is doing it on purpose. The victim is the one it's happening to. And the witness is kind of just watching it happen. They're not in control of it, but it's also not happening to them. It's a weird kind of third person kind of thing. And so a lot of my magic would be the victim thing where stuff's happening to me and I don't know how, but every so often there'll be a routine. Like I wrote a new routine where it's kind of a mix of both, where I intentionally am starting out doing these things on purpose and then it gets out of my control and I fix it again and now it's back under my control and stuff like that. So there's a lot of acting techniques that are involved in a good magic act, right? And a good magic act, again, steals from all the other arts. It's, there's movement, lighting, music, makeup, whatever, storytelling,
you just
scripting.
make it your own.
Yeah, you find a way to make it your I know that I have a whole creativity lecture, and one of the things I talk about is like make the magic to who you are. Do not make yourself to the magic, because that's how you end up looking like everybody else.
Right. And that's what makes you unique and stand out.
Right.
So that people do come to you to see your shows.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I mean, it's not for everybody, and not everybody can do it, unfortunately. And some people are just boring. Some people are just not good performers. And I remember Mike Rowe said something that really made me mad, but he was right. He was on some video and he said, just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean you're good at it. And I went, woof, that's a harsh truth, isn't it?
It is. It's very harsh.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to push through it to keep practicing, right?
Right. And I would never tell somebody who loves something to stop doing it. I would just be like, hey, try it like this.
Maybe just tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe just
When it comes to... Okay, so I'm like,
it's fine.
See, no, we were just going through all the questions that I didn't even have to like really ask. Like, it just kind of flows.
I tend to yammer a lot. I have a lot of feelings and thoughts on these things.
Where's your podcast?
Yeah, nobody wants to hear me talk that much.
So you're pretty well known in the magic community as well too.
Sure, why not? Sure.
I was talking to my cousin's husband.
Okay.
And he was like a magician when I was asking people like, hey, what questions would you have for a magician? And I mentioned you and he goes, you've landed Bizzaro? That is so cool. I've seen him on this TV show and all that stuff like that. So I was like, that's cool. And then I've noticed that you were like on other things like different TV channels and doing like melody stuff.
I've been on the one that's the funniest is so my friend the Shocker I was telling you about earlier, him and I have a show together called Shock and Bizarre. And
that's cute.
Yeah.
I just realized Shock and Bizarre. Like,
right, exactly. Yeah.
Names,
Yeah. And so we try to go after the Halloween market with that. So we've worked the Magic Castle in Hollywood for Halloween a number of times, and we're trying to get into some theme parks with the show. Like, so our act is kind of Halloween-esque anyway, just by nature of how us being weirdos. And then we try to write things that skew a little more, unusual and things like that. So both of us have been on a variety of TV shows, and one of them, if you can imagine it, was Showtime at the Apollo, which is hilarious that they had us on there. But we've been on like Masters of Illusion. I was on America's Got Talent very early on, like third season.
That's pretty cool.
Travel Channel. There was a TV show back in like 2003 called 30 Seconds of Fame I was on, and a lot of like local news stuff when I lived in Texas, and I've been on local news stuff here for Late Night Magic and things like that. So yeah, I mean, there were some TV shows overseas I really wanted to do. There's this great one in France that doesn't exist anymore called Cabaret du Monde that I really wanted to do, and I just couldn't land it. I was like, and then they stopped filming. I'm like,
oh, that sucks.
Sucks. But yeah, no, I've been on a handful of things, not as much as some, but more than others. So
what's the process of that, like getting on the TV show and doing your acts? Like, do you get nervous or like scared that you're on TV, or is it just like a normal
it's just
day
part of my job.
Yeah.
It's part of the job. Like there's always a little bit of nerves with that kind of stuff here and there, but for the most part, you just go out and you do your act. And that just comes from being confident and doing this a ton, right?
Yeah.
So like I know there's shows like Penn Teller's Fool Us that will have guys doing stuff for the first time on there. So I can assume that they're a little nervous, doing that. But if I'm going on TV, I'm going to do something I'm comfortable with,
Right.
It's very rare that I'm going to do something for the first time on a TV show. Like that's ballsy.
Right.
I know some people who've done it. I'm like, well, but that's also, again, if you know what you're doing and you've been on enough TV shows with other stuff, you can fudge it. So,
Right.
But like the process to get on it, it's different for everybody. Like sometimes you send an audition tape, and it's like, what was it for American Got Talent? It was, I went and auditioned live for second season and nothing came of it. And then when the third season came up, I said, I'm just going to come back with the same stuff. So I'm not even going to bother to try. But what they did was they reached out to a local agency in Dallas looking for act.
Mhm.
whoever had video, they just submitted a bunch of stuff, including my stuff, and they went, that guy. So I just got to go straight through without auditions or nothing, which was weird.
So you didn't get an audition in front of Simon Cowell.
Well, you don't do that. You don't do that when in the cattle call auditions, right? That's at the time, Simon was only the behind the scenes guy. We're talking like this was the Sharon Osbourne, Sharon Osbourne, Hasselhoff, and whoever the third one was. Oh, the other angry British guy. And so my friends used to joke and say, it's weird. The judges, it's called America's Got Talent, but two of them aren't American and the other one doesn't have talent. How are they judges? Which I thought was funny.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And but that was unfortunately back during the days when that show really disrespected variety arts. Like they didn't see any value in it. So they used to just make fun of the variety acts, even if they did well. Like, because they can edit you to look however.
Right. It was more about like music and like singing kind of stuff back then.
Yeah. It wasn't until Matt Franco, who's over at The Link, when he was the first, I think, non-singing act to eventually get through. Now, you had Terry Fader, but he was a singing ventriloquist. So I was like, nope, still a singer. Just because he had a puppet doesn't mean he's not a singer.
Right.
So it wasn't until Matt Franco that somebody finally cracked that ceiling to get for the variety artists to kind of be a little more respected by that show, but they still aren't super respected, honestly. But as you can tell, I'm not a big fan of that show.
Yeah, I can tell.
They have mistreated a handful of my friends. And then some of my friends have been treated well, but TV people are a little shady.
Right. I can understand that because it's like they're looking for something, and even if you have all the talent and you think if it make it, they'll be like, yeah, no, and kind of be rude about it.
They all have an agenda too.
Yeah.
There's so many things that go on behind the scenes where they will, and some of them are deliberately trying to screw you, which sucks. And some of them just don't know what the hell they're doing. Like you'll get these weird requests like, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this? Like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And some people are so desperate just for that attention and that exposure that they'll just do what they say. Yeah. And sometimes it leads to good things and sometimes it doesn't. Just
and
depends.
You're just following your own path.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of what this podcast is building your dream life and building your path to your own success. So would you say like you've just bulldozed your way through? It kind of sounds like that in a way.
It just depends. I mean, it depends on what your definition of success is. It's subjective, right? So some people want to be rich, some people want to be famous, some people just want to work for a living and not have to worry. And I fall more in that category, right? Like some people move to Vegas to have their own show, Name and Lights, and I'm like, that's not me, man. I don't care about that. I came here to work and just extend my career to a different level. You know, it's like I'd run out, exhausted all the places, all the options I could in Dallas. I was like, there's nothing else I can do here.
Right.
It is time to move on.
And came to Vegas.
Yeah.
Right?
And so I moved out here in 2008 when the economy was amazing. And so we just kind of used those terrible years to just get known in the industry and the community. And, you know, most of the entertainment business is making connections and meeting people and getting to know people who will recommend you for things and stuff like that. And thankfully that happened for me out here. There's a gentleman named Jeff McBride who's very well known, who's in the magic community. Like he's like a teacher, performer. He was on television. He's done it all, right? And so he helped me kind of get established early on because he used to have this show called Wonderground that happened. When I moved here, it was once a week on the weekends, and then it moved to once a month, and it went on for like 10 years here in town. And he just put me on stage almost immediately so people in town could see what I did.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so that helped me get established quickly in a town where sometimes it takes years for people to see you. And I was like, oh, great, thank you. You know, so it's always nice to find people who are willing to lift others up because they're already there, you know, and having that. And it's also nice to have places. Vegas doesn't have them as much as places like Dallas did, but what we call good places to be bad, where you can go and screw up and it won't affect your career.
So it is kind of like a safe zone, so to say.
Yes. Yeah, there's a handful of places. There's only a couple places here in Vegas where we have that still, but they are instrumental in helping people get better. You know, even professionals need a place to try new stuff.
Yeah.
You know, people who like stuff you're just trying for the first time, because that first performance of something will tell you everything you need to know that no rehearsal will ever prepare you for. And so it's like, thankfully, Wonderground was one of those places where you could go and try something new. And if it you feel like we were talking about earlier, if it failed and you could get through it, nobody would notice. It's like, okay, well, that could have been better. But it was very instrumental in having, and I had a lot of those places in Dallas too, where I could just throw all this stuff at the wall and see what stuck. Cause I also worked in the nightclub and live music scene. So there was doing stuff for drunks will make you good fast.
Right.
Because you have to hold their attention very, very fast. So that's also why I do a lot of the silent stuff, because talking in a bar ain't gonna happen.
No. So silent stuff is more like bars and parties and things like that.
Yeah.
So speaking of like doing like tricks and things like that too, what would you say is the most underrated trick that you think should be more known as? Or do you think it's more kind of like what you said before, like the tricks are your own?
So, I mean, it depends on what you do, right? So there are cover bands. There's people who do other people's tricks, right? They don't do their own. There are people who write their own songs, and there are people who write their own songs who do covers of other people's songs, right? Yeah. So, there's a philosophy in magic. There's only so many types of effects, and depending who you ask, it's like anywhere from 7 to 11 different effects, right? So it's like I don't have it all memorized, but it's like vanish, appearance, transposition, torn and restored. I can't remember the other ones, but stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So there's only so many. Once you break them down to their basics, it's like, oh, it's just these things. And so, there's only so many options, but much like there's only so many notes, you can find ways to arrange those in very particular ways. And so sometimes you'll just make a ginger appear out of nowhere.
You want to come in and say hello?
No, he's just gonna sit here
and you can hang out.
be the peanut gallery. So, but anyway, to go back to what your question is. So, personally, there are magical effects that I don't understand. The method is not comparable to the reaction it gets, right? Mm-hmm. So there's an effect in magic that is I don't know what it's like roped card or a lasso card trick. That's what it is. I was trying to remember. So it involves a piece of rope. Like I would do it for you if we had the setup here, but
man. I was gonna ask if you were gonna do any magic today.
I can make that happen. I can make that happen. So the effect is you have a card selected, you drop it into a hat, a paper sack, some receptacle, take a piece of rope, drop a piece of rope in and go, watcha. And now you pull out and the rope is tied around that card that they selected, right? Okay. In a knot. And I have done different versions of this with headphones and Mardi Gras beads and all this different stuff. And people's reaction to it is ridiculous. Like, and because to me, the method is kind of baloney. Yeah. Like the method to me is so simple that I just kind of go, why are you so impressed with this? Because to me, it's nothing.
It's the simple things that people are like, whoa.
Yes. Yes. And so it's very interesting to me. And we've done it. We did this on a TV show. I've done consulting for the performers behind the scene. And so there was this magician who we were traveling Europe, doing magic for people in Europe. And so we did it with candy bars, right? And at a circus in the Czech Republic. It was nutty, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's a very, we call it versatile routine because you can do it with different stuff. But again, the fact that people are just like, what? I'm just like, all right, sure, why not?
It's like the simple-minded tricks. It just makes it so much fun because you're like, how did they do that? It's so easy and simple. And then it's like, it just makes it more fun, I think, for some people because they don't have to think about it.
Well, and again, it's also about the performer, right? Because one performer, you could have two performers do the same effect and one will be more entertaining, more interesting than the other person. I actually have a friend who, I'm not going to say names, but I just had a magician friend of mine locally who basically did a head-to-head battle with another magician for a gig. It was the wackiest thing. They basically were both up for this gig. So the owners of this place said, both you come in and do a show for us separately, not at the same time. Same day though. So like one of them did the show, then the other guy went after him. And one of them, his magic is stronger, but his stage presence is not. But the other guy's stage presence is way more likable and interesting, and his magic is fine. It's whatever, right? It's not bad. It's just different than what the other guy was doing, right? Mm-hmm. And so my friend who was more personable and more out there and interesting was the one who ended up getting the gig. And that's subjective. Everything is subjective in this life. And so the other person could have been like, wow, I'm so amazed by what you did, that he could have gotten the gig. But again, it goes back to, are you likable on stage? That's probably going to get you further than, because anybody can go into a magic shop with $20 and buy a trick deck of cards and call themselves a magician. But that doesn't make you one, right? Like, I tell people all the time, like, there's a difference between a magician and somebody who does magic tricks. A magician studies the art. It's just like an actor. Like, I've written a bunch of stuff. I've been published in magazines, but I would never call myself a writer because I've never studied the art of writing. I know how to write, and I know how to make stuff make sense and be entertaining, but I've never studied that art. I know how to take photos of people. I'm not a photographer. I would never call myself that because I've never studied it. Now, I have studied magic into the floor, so I will definitely call myself a magician. But the people who haven't studied it are just like, look at these tricks I bought. I do at a bar. I'm like, okay, buddy, let's calm down with the title there. So, but I'm also, it sounds a little elitist, but it's also, there needs to be that separation of just like, oh, okay, that's not what, I wouldn't call you a magician, but sure, why not?
So what would you say are the elements of a magician? Because you kind of basically mentioned a little bit of it just now, and it's like, it's the entertainment, it's like the tricks, but to you, what would you say is the true elements of being a good magician?
Being a good magician versus being a magician to an audience is different than being a good magician in the magic world, because those are two different things. So there are magicians who nobody's ever heard of outside the magic world, who are very well respected and revered and amazing, who just don't perform for audiences. They're just magician performers. And that's a lot. You see a lot of these guys at those magic conventions, right? Like people I talked about earlier have real jobs. Like there's a couple of people in our who are well known in our business who were like innovators back in the old days. And his name was Larry Jennings, right? And he had created all this card magic, and he published all these books. Super well known in magic. He was a plumber, right? Nobody outside of magic really knew who he was, aside from whoever he booked. But he did parties, private parties, stuff like that, gigs. We all like anybody, but he never was ever on television or anything like that. And so it depends on where you sit on that. But I think in magic itself, it's people who you don't have to know the whole history of magic, but knowing a little bit of history is good. Being well versed in what's kind of out there, especially in your own field. Like if you're a close-up guy, I don't expect you to know a lot about stage. Right. But but some people know everything. They know a little bit about everything, and they're super aware. They have amazing libraries. If you ask them who invented this, they go, oh, that's in this book on page 47. I have that book. And it's like, wow, that's a lot. And so but there's nothing wrong with that. As an entertainer, if you're doing it for an audience, it is really just being proficient and in all aspects of the art, I suppose, where it's like, oh, if you're a funny performer, are you funny? Do you understand the difference between comedy and a gag? Do you know how to be funny? Can you tell jokes without doing magic for a couple minutes, right? Like if you're going to call yourself a comedian, better be funny without the stuff. But it's like, oh, are you? So it's like, there's a manipulation magic where you do it's usually silent acts, not always, but where you're producing cards from the air and multiplying billiard balls and producing doves and stuff like that. It's called manipulation. Are you proficient at that? Do people see what you're doing when you do it? No? Right. Great. Okay. The technique is good. Perfect. Your technique is good and flawless. But do you engage with the audience? Because a lot of performers don't know how to check in with the audience, right? That's one of the, and again, that's a lot of acting stuff where it's like, hey, look at the audience, make sure that they're with you on the ride. Like there's a ton of psychology that goes with magic that you learn as a performer, you read in books, but there's a lot of stuff you just have to learn by doing. There's these little weird tricks. There's ways to extend the applause at the end of something if you know those tricks. There's ways of getting an audience to kind of, like, I will watch magic acts and I will see something because I just see these things as I'm trained to, and nobody else in the audience will see it. I just go, am I the only one? I guess I am. But that has taught me that I can be a little more bolder with some of the stuff that I do, because I'm just like, they're never going to see this, right? But these are things you only learn by doing. And there's, I forget the author, but there's like a book about like 10,000 hours. And it's like anybody who's proficient will have their 10,000 hours.
I think I've seen that.
Thank you.
What book was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I don't 100% agree you need 10,000 hours will make sure you're proficient at it for sure, but you don't need that many hours to get to that point, right? You can get better quicker depending on what you're doing, where you're doing, and stuff like that.
And
but
how much practice you
yes, yeah. And I understand the sentiment. I get the sentiment, but I think 10,000 hours is a little much. It's like, holy crap, dude, where's your 10,000 hours, Mr. Writer Man? You know, like.
I would say your 10,000 hours started when you were 5.
Yeah, it sure feels that way some days. But yeah, and what's interesting is there's a lot of people who started in Magic that chose a different career path, but Magic, like, I think helps them because it gives you an insight into people and stuff like that. But like Johnny Carson was a huge fan of Magic and also did it. Arsenio Hall had a Magic act when he was younger, right? Like a full-on competition Magic act, you know. Steve Martin, a lot of, and there's
I could see Steve Martin.
The guy who played Star-Lord is a Chris Pratt does a little bit of Magic. You can find videos of him on talk shows doing.
Of course.
Yeah. Who else? One of the Property Brothers started life as a magician.
I love the Property Brothers.
Right. So Jonathan Silver Scott is a magician by trade, and he'll call me up sometimes. He's one of the people I've done consulting for. They'll call me up and go, "Hey, I'm going on a talk show. What would be good for this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure, we'll talk about it."
So he's
yes.
You guys are friends.
Yeah. We've hung out, and he had a really nice house out here, but I think he spends most of his time in LA now that he's with Zoe Deschanel.
Yeah.
Who's also very nice. I got to meet her once. She's very nice.
She's a gem.
Yeah. I did a magic trick for her.
How was her reaction?
Oh, good. Yeah, she enjoyed it. You know, but apparently they love escape rooms. So I've been trying to convince them to come out and do the ones we've made here.
Yes, you should.
I know. I want to see them go through Swamp Monster. It'd be so fun. It'd be so funny.
You should have our friend Ian introduce them to the escape room.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, but again, Magic has we talked about this earlier. A lot of people get into it and then they go to do other things, but it's still in there. It's still running around in your brain sometimes. So it helps with other things, and that's what I tell people all the time now with the escape rooms is I make Magic shows that I don't have to be in the room for. Right?
That makes sense. Yeah, because escape rooms are very mystical and you're solving puzzles and you're trying to figure out a story.
But then things happen that you may or may not have no explanation for, right?
Yeah.
Like the joke I always say is like, if I put this here and that door over there opens and you don't know how electricity works, that's magic.
Yeah, there's some in the escape room that is at Monster Quest, and the hardest one is in the mummy one, where you're in the tomb and you have to like try and move
the sliders.
The sliders.
Yeah.
I always can never figure that one out. That one always struggles. I struggle with that one so much.
To be fair, it is the hardest puzzle in the room.
That makes sense.
Yes, because that is very much it has been simplified a bit since I think you played it. I think there's been some new clues added to help because there's this fine line with escape rooms, and it's just like for performing for people where it's like, okay, how artsy are we getting and how clear is it, right? It's like, because you could definitely watch some stuff, and I've definitely created some routines that I think the narrative, you have what's called an inner monologue, right? When you're a performer, especially if you're a silent performer. And so there's this inner monologue that is driving the actions that may not always be clear to the audience, but it's what motivates your actions, at least in your brain. And sometimes it's clear to the audience, and sometimes it's very much not.
Yeah.
And so with the escape rooms, you have that same thing where you have to make sure that it's challenging enough for enthusiasts and people who like escape rooms and have played escape rooms, but it's not so hard that a newbie gets frustrated, right? And so there's this balance. But what you don't want, so there's this thing we talk about where if somebody gets stuck on something and you give them a hint, they go, oh, like all of a sudden it makes sense to them. What you don't want is them to go, well, that's stupid. Like if you hear that, you're like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
And if you hear that over and over again, it's like, okay, well, that needs to be fixed. Let's change that.
Right.
And it's same thing with Magic. If it's not getting the reaction you want, you have to keep reformatting it. Like there's a routine in my talking act that it involves like what looks like a giant piece of a Scrabble board, and it involves my name to try to help people remember how to spell it. Because I misspell it on purpose from the way it's supposed to be. So my stage name is 2 Z's and 1 R. When I was younger and I came up with the name at like 13, I was like, which one is it? And I was like, I like the 2 Z's. I like ZZ Top, the little cross Z. I like that logo. I'm gonna go with the 2 Z's and the 1 R. But the real way to do it is 1 Z and 2 R's, right?
Okay.
So it gets spell checked and changed all the time. So I was like, I'm gonna educate people on how to spell my damn name. And so I came up with this routine, but then it didn't got this reaction of, right? It didn't get like what I wanted. I was like, come on, guys, this is better than this.
Right.
And then one day I just got mad and I just showed them how it worked. Huge laugh, giant reaction. And I went, I guess that's how I'm doing it from now on. I get to, because it's my own trick. I can expose my own thing.
Right.
Like magicians who on the internet who expose other people's stuff they don't have permission to or the right to, suck. And I will fight any of you who argue with me on that. And so, but if it's your own thing, go for it, right? So, and that's one of those things where and sometimes you just can't be too married to something. Like in escape rooms the same way. It's like I love some puzzles and I'm like, but I want them to understand it the way it's meant to be understood. But it's like this, it's not about me. It's about them having a good time, right? It's like you can't be selfish with magic or escape room, anything in the entertainment business. You have to find this balance of, am I happy with it? Are they happy with it?
So with escape rooms and how you would want to do an escape room, what would that look like for you if you don't have to worry about people not being able to understand or get like what would that kind of
I mean, I've definitely made plenty of those already. It feels like, well, that's the thing. It's like, there's always going to be a narrative because as a magician, you think to yourself, okay, what do I want the audience to experience, right? It's not about the method because the best method is the best method. So our thinking is usually, we don't worry about method. Usually, sometimes we start with method. If it's a cool method, we go, how do we figure out something around this? But usually it's like, okay, what do we want the player to experience? What do we want the audience to experience? So with an escape room, it's always like, okay, what's the story, right? So it's like story drives puzzles, puzzles drive story. And so by coming up with a narrative, then you can just kind of make wackiness happen as long as it fits in that world, right?
Yeah.
So when we were developing you haven't played the Swamp Room yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I want to.
Okay.
Though.
So
Use code Jules. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Exactly. So at the Swamp Room was written, had a different narrative when the previous owner had the space. And when Mike came in, we rewrote it because we could be a little more whimsical, right? With it. It wasn't meant to be scary anymore. So there's scares in it, but it's not meant to be like scary. So we were like, let's get a little wacky with this. Let's have fun with this. So we changed the ending of the room because originally we were supposed to defeat the monster and electrocute him, right? And so we changed that. I'm not going to say how because you haven't played. I want you to see it. So now there is a different ending from that, and we changed. We were like, but why? Why? Like, why does this exist? And so we sat and did a rewrite, and this guy ran afoul of a swamp witch, and she cursed him, and now he's been collecting all these voodoo trinkets to try to reverse the spell, but he's also a moonshiner, so he's trying to combine these two things. And so one of the things we try not to do is just shove story down your throat because that can get heavy-handed. It can bog down the experience. So you leave these clues and puzzles through the puzzle. As you solve the puzzles, you get pieces of story. And so as you progress through something, you go, oh, I get it, right? It's one of those things you kind of put but if you don't, it doesn't affect your experience, right? So like with the Mummy Room you mentioned earlier, the whole point of that is, hey, there's this guy, we can't find him. And then you end up finding him later. And it's one of those things like, well, we found him, the end. So that room does not have as deep a narrative, but it doesn't need it either, you know? And so sometimes, there's a difference between a theme and a story. You can have a room with a theme, but you can't have a room. You can have a theme and no story, but you cannot have a story with no theme. Right. So
it kind of has to marry itself together.
Yeah. So I've definitely played rooms that had a theme, but there was no narrative of any kind. There was no reason why you were doing any of the stuff. And just like the magic thing, as I said, our magic works best when it solves a problem. So do escape rooms, where it's like, hey, we're solving a narrative. And I tell people all the time, it's like they're live action video games, they're live action movies. You're an actor in your own story, and you're experiencing a story that hopefully start to finish.
Right.
It's about storytelling, and then magic is the same way. Sometimes you're telling a story that is very obvious, and sometimes you're not. Like I have friends There's her name is Luna Shimada. Her father was a well-known magician. She had this act with umbrellas making all these parasols appear. And the original version of the act was all the parasols were, what do you call it? Like had like planets painted on them.
Oh, cool.
And so the weird, the narrative, which I picked up on and I loved, but she never explicitly states it because it's a silent act, she was basically this goddess creating the universe, right? Creating stuff. And I loved the concept of that. And if you pick up on it, you're like, oh, that's really cool. It's like, oh, she's creating planets in the universe. That's neat. But you don't have to spoon feed that to the audience. The people who get it, and the ones who don't, they're just like, ooh, pretty colors.
They just need to kind of open up their mind a little bit.
Sure.
And storytell. But
As there's some, we've made like 9 escape rooms for a company in Reno, and they were one time, one guy was like, listen, we go by the 80-20 rule. If 80% of people are happy, we're doing a good job.
Yeah. Can't make everyone happy all the time, right?
No, that would. What was George Carlin used to have a line where he said, "You ever heard the phrase? Somebody says, I'm more than happy. That sounds like something you get locked up for. He was more than happy. We had to lock him up. Oof."
That would terrify me.
Right?
I can't be locked up.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever been in a straitjacket?
No, I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I own a couple.
I see here.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I used to own a black leather one because I thought it was funny as hell.
Are you gonna do the magic? Can you?
I just thought I would tease you and just be like, look, it's a deck of cards.
Can you?
I
Can
can.
you please? Oh my gosh.
Can.
I'm so excited. I
Right?
love magic. I'm like
That's
shaking.
right. Oh my god. See, you're the kind of people that we love.
So we're doing magic right now.
Yes, you can hear that, right?
This was not planned. I'm
No.
so excited. So totally unscripted.
For you, maybe. I knew this was gonna happen.
Thanks.
So yeah. Here's a weird thing. There are magicians who, if you ask them to do something, they're like, no, I don't do stuff.
Yeah,
whatever.
that's why I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna trust or anything. I don't want to be like that.
First off, screw those people. Like, don't tell anybody you're a magician if you're not going to perform for them. Right? It's like, if you don't love magic, don't tell anybody you do it. If it's only for you and you only do it on stage when it benefits you, bite me. Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you really love magic, you will do it for anybody who asked. And it's always weird to me, the guys who've also, sometimes there's magicians, and Shocker and I talk about this all the time, where it's kind of like this, like, they make fun of magic. It's like this weird, ironic kind of hipster sense, right? Where they're just kind of like, no, look how stupid this is, right? It's like, shut up.
Yeah.
You're a self-hating magician. Congratulations. Get out. Anyway, so with that said, I will have you pick a card. I'll tell you what it is.
I mean,
well, that'll be that's the easy version. That's the easy version right there. I'm kidding. All right, here. I know. Here, we'll do it so the camera can see it. Pick a card. Free choice. Go on. Just take a card. Any card. Just take. Fine. Be that way. All right. No, seriously, take one. Go ahead. I'm going to do all the jokes. Take a look at it. There you go. Show it to the camera. Don't tell the audience at home because we'll.
Don't look there.
Listen, if you've picked a card I've never seen, that will be impressive. That's right. So it's the 12 of Cups. What? How did I get in there? Okay. So Yu-Gi-Oh! The Pokemon card. How we snuck it in from out there? Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So I'm gonna run my thumb down the side of the cards. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
That was a little fast. Sorry, that was on me. Let's try it again. Here we go.
Stop. Oh
all right. Listen, I can't. One more time. Here we go. Let me. Sorry. What are you doing to me? Just put it here. It'll be easier on everybody. All right. Yeah. One more look at the card for me. Good. Okay. Perfect. Now watch the card goes into the center. I'm not holding any funny breaks or anything like that. Whatever that means. So we're gonna take the cards. I'm gonna shuffle them up like this. And you know what? I'll even let you shuffle it. This is your show. You get to be part of the action. You can shuffle however you want. Look at that. Like perfect. Just like all the Asians in the casinos. Perfect. It's okay. This makes it more entertaining for me.
There you go.
Perfect. I have no clue what's going. All right. Oh, ooh. Now I'm screwed. No, I don't recall telling you to cut the cards.
Sorry.
Jesus. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, okay. So, normally it is my job to find the card, but this is your show, so you're going to do it.
I haven't done this in fucking years.
Right? Okay, great.
I don't know this
Okay,
card.
wave your hand over the cards. Woo!
No.
I didn't say it was your card. I just wanted to go, it's at the camera. Calm down. All right, hold out your hand for me. Put your other hand on top of the 5 so it doesn't fall out of camera view right there. Perfect. Okay, watch. Here we go. Watch. How about that one?
No.
We got 50 more to go. All right. No, I'm kidding. It's fine. Here we go. Let's try this. But take the 3 right here. We're going to take it under your hand. It's going to turn into the card that's in your hand. What's in your hand? Show it to the audience, please.
Fuck you.
Show it to them. Make sure they see it to you. And that, I assume from that reaction, that was your card.
Oh.
Perfect. All right. Good.
I never know how this is done.
All right. We'll do one more. We'll do one more just for funsies. Watch. Goes into the top of the thing, goes here on the middle, just like that. One more time. I'm not going to hold any types of controls or anything like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up the cards.
Okay.
You're adopted. What? It works for my friends. All right. We'll do it this way. Watch. I'll take the cards. We're going to mix them up different directions, forward to back to
kind of fell out.
It's fine. It's okay. We'll just put them all these different things. So the cards are all messed up, kind of like me. And so you can see they're all facing different directions, forward to back to forward. Just make sure the camera can see that right there. Yep. They're all facing different directions. You can see that too, right? All right, great. Here, fix those. No, you're not. We don't have that kind of time. It's fine. We don't have that kind of time. Here, snap your fingers over if you can. Perfect. By the way, this has nothing to do with the trick. I apparently am the only person I know who snaps their fingers with these 2 fingers and not these 2 fingers. I can do this. I can't do this. I'm a mutant, and that is my X-Men ability. Anyway, so you've snapped your fingers over the cards just like that. These cards are now no longer mixed up. They're all facing the exact same direction, except for your card, the only one right there. The camera cannot see that, but that's okay. We'll just take your word for it. There we go. Back them up. All the cards, just like that. 9 of spades. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Oi. And if you did, you would be disappointed. Those aren't marked. If you're looking for marks, I don't do that kind of stuff.
Okay, because I was like, these look like normal ass.
They are normal ass cards. I can do it with a deck of cards you had if you had one here. These aren't special.
That's a real magician.
Yeah.
In my old magic books that I was talking about earlier, like the old magic kit, they had the trick cards that had like the certain kind of like how you could tell which is which. So I'm like looking at these, I'm like, these are real fucking
No. Yeah, so yeah, that's called a marked deck. Those do exist. I don't use those because they're expensive.
I can see why.
Yeah. That's right, yeah. But if you ever want to see if somebody's using marked deck, here's a fun little thing. And this is a gambling thing, right? So what you do, it's called go into the movies, right? You take the cards and you kind of do this, and it'll be like a flip book. You'll see stuff moving around the deck, right? You'll see like weird symbols or things changing. And so if you want to know if a magician's using a marked deck, you pick it up and go, you mother. But I don't do that.
No. I love that you use real like cards like that because it just makes it so much more magical.
Well, also it enables me to do it with anything at any time, right?
Yeah.
Like that's another thing. Like
that's true.
Learning. Like there's a branch of magic called impromptu magic, which means I can do magic with anything, almost anything at almost any time, right? So if I'm sitting at a dinner table, there's at least 10 things I can do off a dinner table with stuff that is already on the table.
Yeah.
So there's that branch of impromptu magic. And learning that stuff, you don't have to, but boy, does it help.
Yeah.
When somebody says, here's a dinner roll, do something magic with it. And you're like, okay, here we go. Can I do magic with anything? No. Can I?
Right.
But I can at least make a joke about it.
And then joke is magic in itself.
Yeah, it can be, yeah. So it just depends. But
so
of
much,
course.
though. Like
yeah.
that was so much fun. Like I think you could see a little kid in me.
Oh yeah.
When like you had that. I was like, oh my God. Because like I love magic, even though it's like a well-known card trick for magic. It's still kind of like shocking. You're like, how does that work?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well, and like I said, it's like a lot of magicians, a lot of people, I tell people a lot where they're like, tell me how it's done. I go, listen, we don't keep the secrets from you for us. We keep them from you for you. Because if we tell you, your reaction is, really? I fell for that? Like, you get people get upset when you're just like, really? That's what it is?
You're protecting the magic. You're
Yes.
protecting the magic and the excitement of the
Yes.
magic.
It's not for selfish reasons. It is for your benefit completely. So
Yeah.
even though it could be both, but but for me, it's one of those things where I'm like, trust me, you don't want to know.
Now, one more question before
Sure.
we end our
Sure.
conversation. Do you wish that you kind of have that excitement with magic where it's like you are watching it for the first time and you're like, don't have to like kind of have that logic behind
So I
doing
have
tricks and things like that? Like, do you kind of wish you had that like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
so cool feeling?
I have talked about this as a joke where I'm like, I wish I could get my hypnosis friends to be like, you forgot everything you know about magic for like 24 hours, and then I'll be like, show me everything. I do tend to remember the feelings I had early on when I was a kid for certain things. Like I would go to magic shops, and there were magic effects when I would see when I was 8 and I was 10, and they would blow my tiny mind. And then I'd buy them and I'd figure out how they're done. But I remember those feelings.
Right.
Now, there's a couple of them that I learned how they were done before, so I don't know what the audience is experiencing. But there's some I absolutely know what the audience is experiencing because I got to experience that as a kid. And so you kind of keep that in mind where you sit there and go, oh, they enjoyed that. Okay, great. I kind of know what that feels like. So yes, it would be nice. But at the same time, I still do get that feeling from time to time because there are magicians who are pushing boundaries constantly, right? And it's not just in America, it's all over the world. There's South Korea is doing some amazing things. A lot of these magician manipulators are doing stuff that just is mind-blowing. You look at it and go, you guys are practicing way too hard. There's a thing every year called FISM. It's basically our Olympics. It's mostly in European countries is where it usually is. And the people who've been winning it because it's every 3 years, the people who've been winning it, a lot have been the Spanish. And the Spanish are doing some very good stuff as well. So I'll watch those acts when the videos come up online, and there's stuff that will just take you by surprise. I'll sit there and go, oh, because I don't know what I'm looking for.
Right.
And then, but of course my brain can then deconstruct it and go, I think this is what he did. But with video, I can also watch it frame by frame because I love to know how stuff works, right? I am that person who wants to know what's out there because as a consultant and as a prop builder and as a creator, I want to know how something works because I like to collect that knowledge. So it's one of those things where I get the best of both worlds sometimes where I just kind of go, oh, okay. Nope. I have no idea how that works. And then I either think about it or figure it out or somebody tells me and I go, but then I get to appreciate it on a completely other level of cleverness where I go, you clever SOB. How I can't believe I was fooled by that, but also that's awesome. Like I get excited by these new weird methods and these new ideas. And like my friend Carissa, one day she asked me, there's a moment in one of my routines that she asked me, she said, where does all that go? And I go, oh, it goes here. And she just looked at me and go, you son of a, you piece of shit. And she was mad at herself for being fooled by that, right? She's like, really? I'm like, listen, I'll take the compliment if you're going to swear at me. That's a good compliment. But yeah, so it still does happen. But yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know if I'd like to go back to a complete dummy state. I mean, it'd be interesting for sure if that would be one of those things where we're just going to wipe all your magic memories and nothing else. Come out and be like, I want to be an accountant now. But I still do get that from time to time. So it's good. But I can also experience that with other stuff. There is this cool decoration thing. This company figured out how to make these like plastic chainmail kind of like they're lightweight and it's for like, when you go to a office building or casino, there's these weird like just installations hanging, just art installations essentially. But they figured out how to make it wave so it looks like it's moving, but it's not. And I've watched this and I'm just like, I do not know how this works. Like it makes no sense to my brain because it's an optical illusion stuff will mess you up. Like there's this thing with a 3D printed thing where it looks like a little disc and it looks like you're moving this like piece of 3D printed stuff in like through these portals, right? I'd have to show it to you to make it make sense, but I would know how it works, and I still can't see it. It makes me mad. Where I'm just sitting there going, they've even showed me how it works, and my brain cannot wrap its head around it.
Yeah.
And I love it and I hate it at the same time because I'm just like, that's magic too. Because you're just like, what is happening? I know what's happening, but what is happening?
Right. There's magic all around.
So that optical illusion stuff also gets me just kind of like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
There's a guy online who does a ton of optical illusion, straight to camera magic stuff. Pritchard, I believe his name is Dr. Somebody Pritchard.
I'm not sure.
Look him up. He does stuff that some of it I can figure out, but a lot of times I can't. I'm just like, and it's all in camera. No, there's no trickery. It's all practical. And I just look at it and go, yes. I know you're doing something super sneaky, and I just can't see it because he's using not only optics and optical illusion and depth and stuff, but he's using the camera, taking very specific advantage of the medium of the camera to fool you. And I'm just like, Matt Pritchard. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, look up his stuff. You're going to get frustrated. Yeah. And he reveals some of it. He does reveal some, and you go, oh, man.
I'll definitely put that in the resources for people if they want to like go and look them up and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you so much though for coming on and for sharing your magic journey and everything like this. This was really fun. I feel like I need to have you come on again and talk more about like escape rooms and stuff like that.
Part two. I'll be happy to. Yeah. No. So I live in town. Like I said, it's not that far of a drive.
Right. Well, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No. And good luck with all this craziness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to rate, send us a comment, and share the podcast. If you're interested in coming on the show as a guest, send me a DM over at Jules Unscripted Pod on Instagram. Tune in next week for more episodes with Jules Unscripted. Bye!